All right, welcome everybody. My name is Todd Benjamin. I'm with Hostway. We're a North American hosting company. We run data centers in US and Canada and host cloud-based infrastructure and application services, including both Exchange and Open-Xchange. We've been working with Open-Xchange now for about 2 years and have some really exciting stuff that we've been doing, and we're really excited about some of the things that are coming together, some of the partners in the ecosystem and so forth. And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about Open and what Open means to us. I think it builds a little bit on what Raphael said earlier today. And just to kind of set the tone and maybe some of the perspective, as I said, we have been a Microsoft Exchange hoster for 5 or 6 years now, and it's been a very good business for us. But obviously the market's changing, things are changing, and there's definitely some constraints in that business. And so from our standpoint, looking at alternatives, looking at not only creating alternatives for ourselves, but for our distribution partners, finding ways to fuel innovation, I think is exactly how we came together with Open-Xchange to begin with. Obviously, I failed the training. Cool. So just to kind of put things in perspective, the market for cloud services obviously is very large, almost $50 billion last year, projected to triple in 3 years by 2017. And clearly, from everything that the research says, the SaaS is a big, and in fact maybe the majority of the opportunity for those of us that are looking to provide cloud-based services. So I'm going to focus obviously on productivity, which is the bulk of what we see and what we do with Open-Xchange. In terms of looking at the current market, obviously the two 800-pound gorillas are Microsoft and Google. Been very successful in growing their businesses, and we've also as a hoster seen a lot of rising tide benefit of it as well. As they expand the category, they expand the expectations, and more we're seeing even our traditional commodity email customers are now expecting more, wanting more, aware of security, aware of different features and so forth. So everybody is moving to the cloud at one pace or another. And obviously in looking at the two behemoths that are there now and trying to figure out, what is the market opportunity, obviously very large. There's some statistics up on the slide from Gartner and a couple other places in terms of the total number of office seats, if you will. So obviously a very large market, and again, dominated by a couple people. The question that we have to ask ourselves is there room for a third? What is the alternative, and how do we get there? So just summarizing, and I apologize, it's really hard to do this without being able to see it. Obviously Microsoft, a smaller amount of the cloud business market, but clearly that's because they're dominant in terms of the non-cloud premise-based solutions. They've got more types of packages than Google, and have, as Google does, special packages for lots of nonprofit, government, and non-traditional business users. And clearly, one of the things that Microsoft is leveraging heavily, in addition to their brand and in addition to user perception, is the desirability of Office, and not just Office on PCs, but Office on iPads and other devices that they currently have a monopoly, or more or less, in terms of providing that to customers. Google, on the other hand, been in the market longer been in the cloud market longer than Microsoft, and therefore has a dominant market share, or double market share. Nobody's really dominant in terms of compared to the overall businesses, counting the premise. More limited number of packages, and when we look at the reseller friendliness, which is I think a big part of what I want to focus on, although both Microsoft and Google are focused heavily on courting resellers and distribution from a reseller's perspective, I think that there's still, they both lack a lot. So looking at the alternative, and what is that third option? What can that be? And I would argue in this presentation that Open-Xchange is a great opportunity to create that alternative. Not that any one company or any of companies like ourselves are going to go up against the other two and dominate, but by fueling innovation, by arming a reseller channel and people that can take the basic configuration, the basic software, and make unique solutions out of it, we have an opportunity to do some pretty significant things, we at Hostway believe. So, we're working now with our own partners, both large and small, looking at various ways that we can leverage Open-Xchange technology. What can we do with it? And as simple as either branding or retheming the look and feel, two things that obviously there's very little to no opportunity to do with Microsoft and Google, and moving from there into some of the other kinds of things that can be done through the start pages, the portal page, looking at cross-selling, upselling. I think ultimately having control over what you sell, how you sell it, not having to accept the packages that Microsoft thinks are good or good for them, and ultimately moving into some of the custom applications. And Raphael talked earlier today about some vertical applications and being able to, whether it's linking to other services that you provide, if you're a broadband provider and you have hosted voice or other services, being able to start to integrate those into the Open-Xchange experience starts to give people a differentiated experience, and something that you can build brand awareness on. Looking at custom widgets, whether you're incorporating CRM functionality or if you're a system integrator who's looking for a way to provide solutions to your customers, the ability to take another application, whether it's an HR application, and be able to incorporate the information, the number of employee performance reviews that each individual employee is due to complete. Those kinds of things start to create value for the customer, and they create a stickiness and some kind of differentiated value or offer for the reseller. So those are some of the things that that we saw originally, that we're starting to see resonate with the resellers that we're working with. And ultimately, there's a lot of really smart people that if you just give them the tools, they can effectively come up with pretty much an infinite number of ideas and solutions and ways to present the same technology that we'll never think of on our own. So obviously, as I said, we're working both Hostway and Hostway in conjunction with Open-Xchange with a number of people that are reselling other products today for whatever reason they started with that. Whether it's Google, whether it's Office 365, I think everybody, or a large majority of the people that we're talking to, say, feel like something's missing, and I think that something is that ability to differentiate, to have something that keeps your customers with you, as opposed to buying exactly the same thing from the next guy without maybe even having to migrate your email. So the switching costs, and being able to provide something that helps you build a business around it. So obviously lots of benefits. We're seeing a lot of interest among people for that alternative, for the ability to create secret sauce, if you will, and layer that into the commodity software is where we see a lot of the opportunity. So and I apologize, I don't have as good of an example as I wanted to, but just looking at the portal page, when we started looking at ways that we could connect better with our customers, that we could offer that capability to our resellers, finding that interface where people populate or are present throughout the day is really a key selling point. And this is something that I think Open-Xchange successfully drilled into our heads is, people are looking at their email, they're in their email, This is something that they're looking at potentially on their mobile phones and their devices. And so having a place where you can let the user customize their own experience and where you can start to put in proprietary add-ins, again, whether it's a Salesforce.com plugin that allows them to see, the salesperson to see what opportunities they're supposed to work on today, or it's their manager who sees their forecast when he goes to his page. I think there's tons of opportunities there. And we've even started looking at and talking about ways that we could allow people to buy that functionality. So in the same way that today they can go in and customize their page and add widgets, add standard widgets that are already there, you can also create that ability to start to give them the ability to buy that Salesforce plugin, to buy your proprietary plugin, cross-selling your voice services, messaging, whatever. So to wrap up, obviously, I think everybody expects more and more applications to move to the cloud and more and more applications to be born in the cloud. Microsoft and Google, obviously, formidable competitors. I don't think anybody wants to compete with them head to head, but I think the message that I would bring is that you don't have to. And ultimately, I think the whole idea of creating, a vibrant reseller channel, giving them the platform, taking away the heavy lifting, if you will, to install software, to manage software and servers, and really let them focus on creating value for their customers. And then we think that AppSuite and Open-Xchange is a great vehicle to make this happen. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Benjamin here? No? I've got one. Our two companies had this 2-year relationship ever since you came out to Berlin and visited I guess that was the 4th annual summit, where we also had some good cigars. But we've had some pretty interesting discussions about residential and residential services. Are there certain types of services or apps, applications, bundles you see in this space that are ripe to take off?
I think that one of the challenges with residential, or at least the way that we're positioned in the market, we deal with a lot of phone companies, a lot of cable companies who have large installed bases of residential customers. And I think what we've been working on is trying to get them to look at the email that they see today as a commodity and a burden as an opportunity. And they haven't done that in the past. But I think both from the standpoint of they're starting to look for alternatives. They don't want to run this platform internally. They at one point thought it was strategic. Now, maybe they're realizing that although they have to offer it, they don't have to run it. So we're seeing a lot of companies now are starting to look for various reasons at an alternative to the basic email. I think once you have the basic email replaced, now you've got the open road to add other things, and it can be as simple as I'm a Comcast customer, and I would pay. And I would love them to put ActiveSync on their email, because right now I can't even explain to my wife. She bought a smartphone, after years, and asked me about putting the email on. It took me about 5 minutes to trying to explain to her what she would have to do to manually manage her email between her smartphone and her computer, and she finally said, "Forget it. I'll just use my computer." So I think it's as simple as things like that the people that are providing residential services today are missing, and whether that is provided as an over the top, or whether these companies start to realize the value that they can bring to their customers. I think it could go either way. Clearly, the opportunity's there.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Todd? Just to point out, Hostway is our sponsor for tomorrow night at the OX Beer Garden, like we mentioned earlier. Just about 200 meters down the way, there's a lovely beer garden. It's called the Hofbräu Keller. You can see it here. It's printed on all your programs. It's powered by Hostway. We're going to have lovely Bavarian food, beverages under hopefully great weather, and 22 chestnut trees. You just have to watch your head when they fall. They can hurt.
There you go. We couldn't afford to buy you dinner, but we'll buy you drinks. So.
No, there will be food involved. There
Okay,
is
good. Oh,
there
good,
is
good,
food.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, no, there's food and beverage, and obviously good conversation to continue what we started today. So thanks again, Todd,
All right.
and we'll see you at the beer garden.
Thank you, everyone.